everyone, and welcome to the Madison Place Firehouse community-wide conversation with Columbia Township. We are so excited to talk to you today. It is Friday. Tomorrow is the first day of May Day. It's spring, but even better, we're all together today to talk about an amazing project, and we want to hear all of your ideas and tell you about what we've been working on. Today is not a one and done. Today is one of many conversations that we started with you, the community, and our neighboring communities last year, and that we will continue throughout the year. We'll have opportunities at the end for you to sign up, sign on. And so we're going to keep talking and keep hearing about great ways that we can make this project work for our entire community and the Eastern Hamilton County region as well. I'm Melissa Taylor. I'm only going to do a brief intro and a couple of housekeeping items, and then the star of the show today is our partner, Yard and Company, which is a urban planning team, a really amazing team, national team, headquartered in Cincinnati, has been involved with us from the beginning of this project. So let me give you a couple of housekeeping items for our conversation today. Feel free to use the question and answer feature on your screen. We are going to attempt, depending on the number of questions, the number of comments, to read them all live, and any questions we will answer. If for some reason we have too many and we run out of time, we will make sure that we post answers, and the questions and answers will then appear for all participants. And also, we're recording today's conversation, so we are going to post on YouTube and online next week, everything from today. So let me start by introducing our Columbia Township trustees who are on with us today. So David Kabicki is president of the trustee board. David has been with a trustee for more than 10 years, and we have a diverse representation from the trustee board across all of our neighborhoods in Columbia Township, stretching from the west to the east. So David is from the Williams Meadow neighborhood in the east part of Columbia Township. Moving next to Susan Hughes. Susan is our longest tenured trustee, more than 20 years. And Susan lives in the central part of Columbia Township, the Red Bank, Stewart Road area. And then our newest trustee, Vice President Brian Lamar, lives in Madison Place, which is where our firehouse that we're talking about today is located. So it was great to be able to bring him on in the year before and the year of the firehouse's redevelopment. And then we have a fiscal officer who oversees all of our financial and accounting matters. Her name is Caroline Heekin, and she lives in the far west neighborhood of Ridgewood, beautiful neighborhood that's adjacent to Pleasant Ridge. All right, so let me give just a brief overview of the firehouse for those of you who might not be familiar with it. It is in Madison Place, which if you leave Madisonville and travel toward Marymount, we have a lot of M's. The Madison Place neighborhood is between those two communities. And the firehouse is located off of Murray Avenue in Columbia Township. This firehouse, as you can see in this really old newspaper snapshot, was built in 1950, and it is such an amazing location. It looks like a small building, but it's actually 10,000 square feet. You'll see slides when Yard and Company walk you through more details later in the conversation today. You'll see the massive structure that is actually behind what we're looking at today. We had some private party interest for the firehouse when it was vacated, and nothing was significant enough that it would matter to the community. And it's such an iconic and cultural building. And there's so many memories there that we did not rush, the trustees did not rush to make a decision on it until we knew that we were making the right decision. So we actually have a couple of memories that we wanted to share with you. We had a couple of people who have been talking to us about their memories of parents having wedding anniversaries in the firehouse and them going to Boy and Girl Scout meetings in the firehouse. So it's been a really interesting process for all of us to learn things from multi-generational residents who have been in Madison Place and Marymount and Madisonville from back when the firehouse first opened. So the trustees made a decision in 2020 that they wanted to keep the firehouse. and give it back to the community. It's too important to sell because it would be lost to the community once it's sold. And it's actually the only building that Columbia Township owns that is in the township. Our administration building is actually in a different community. So the trustees' guiding principle was that we want to give this firehouse back to the community, create it as a gathering place for the neighbors of Madison Place and for neighbors in all of our neighborhoods, the ones I mentioned with the trustees and many others as well, would be able to gather and enjoy and experience and collaborate and have discussions about really important things related to the community and to them, and for us to interact with residents, neighbors, much more. And so we brought on you can see the timeline ahead of us on the screen. We brought on Yard and Company in the fall of 2020 to begin redevelopment planning. And so I'm going to turn it over to Kevin and Joe and his team to take the lead from here, and you're going to love what you're going to see.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mel, and hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us briefly today on your Friday lunch break. We appreciate it. Mel walked us through a little bit of where we've been, but before I advance, just touching on a few other points here that, this building is, as you're going to see in slides ahead, is really strategically located in your community. It's on a beautiful little side street looking out towards Marymount, back behind the Green Papaya on Plainville. It's an iconic building. As Mel mentioned, it has many memories attached to it going back decades. It's really has been a community hub for you as a civic building for many years. And the township has decided to figure out how to keep it in the community's hands and to make sure that it is available and used for and by everyone in the township. And we're going to walk you through our thoughts on that today. We were brought in a few months ago. My phone rang and it was Mel, and she said, "You know what? We're working towards taking this building and making it a community space, and we really need some help just thinking through how to do that." And so at Yard and Company, we have something called a work day where we come into town for a day and work with our partners to creatively brainstorm about a project. And I'm going to walk you through what we thought of that day. And really, since that day, we've also had specific stakeholder one-on-one interviews getting additional feedback, and that has led us to where we are now. And as you can see on the screen, some of the next steps over the next few months, you're going to start to see a lot happen in and around this wonderful building. So who are we? Mel mentioned us a little bit. Our company is called Yard and Company. We are based here in Cincinnati, but we are a national firm working across about 15 states. We're an urban design, urban planning, and development strategies firm with an intentional focus around placemaking and activation. As part of the workday with Mel and her team, we also brought in our partners at Green Street. They are based out of Indianapolis, and they did a very brief market snapshot of the region to not only help the team at Columbia Township apply for grants, but also to get a sense of where other civic spaces exist, how much they cost, how their operations are structured, to help then inform smart strategies around what we do for this building. And so when we came into, obviously we're based here in Cincinnati, we knew enough to be dangerous about Columbia Township, but we learned a lot during our first day here. And what did we learn? Well, we learned that it's a very proud place. There are newcomers, of course, in the neighborhood, but there are also people who've lived here their entire lives and have raised their families here and gone to school here and are very proud of what Columbia Township is, which creates sort of this authentic texture where you have people who've called it home their entire lives or even for generations. It also creates a very tight-knit community, but one of the things we learned is that there are too few shared experiences. There are too few what we call third places in the neighborhood where people can gather, although there are some new ones that have opened recently. And the firehouse it creates an opportunity to create another one of those third places where people can come together. And then lastly, when you look at Cincinnati as a whole, Columbia Township used to be thought of as kind of on the edge of town. But more than ever, it's starting to be at the center of a lot of activity, whether that be Madisonville, Oakley, Kenwood, Indian Hill, Marymount, Pleasant Ridge. A lot of these places around Columbia Township are growing pretty rapidly. And Columbia Township, in particular Madison Place, is at the center of that. And that creates a real opportunity. So some of the goals and the principles and the vision that we were working off of that day when we came into town, first was, how can we build social infrastructure? Start to connect neighbors, connect people in Columbia Township through intentional activation of the firehouse. How do we use the Madison Place Firehouse to broadcast a new brand for the neighborhood and a new identity, one that is reflective of who you are today and respectful of the past, but starts to put Madison Place a little bit more on the map and brings us forward into the 21st century a bit. I think it's fair to say right now that some people either think they're in Madisonville or think they're in Marymount when they're in Madison Place visiting. And so how can we utilize the firehouse to really put our flag in the ground and say, no, we are not those places. We are Columbia Township. We are Madison Place. And then how can we create a place where important conversations can occur? It's not rare in cities that we work in towns across the country, where the important conversations only happen when there's something like a zone change or there's something like a comprehensive plan update. One of the things we've been talking about with Mel is that in order to really get ahead of some of those issues that at times can be divisive, how can we create a space where there are regular conversations about what growth looks like, what development and change looks like for you all in Columbia Township? And then also, as Plainville begins to reinvent itself and grow, we already see a new coffee shop there today, as for example. How can we think about maybe using the firehouse to build a pipeline and incubate potential tenants for the Plainville corridor? And so the goals that I've outlined started to inform for us our design principles for the project, and some things that basically are the foundation of some of our decision making around design that Joe's going to walk you through. The first is that it clearly needs to be an accessible place, a place that's for everyone. Whether if you're walking by and the garage door's open and you're wearing a suit like I am, or you're in construction boots, you feel like it's a place where you can walk in and hang out and spend time with your neighbors. It also needs to be fun. It needs to be a place that's changing. It's not always the same thing. If you're there on a Saturday, it might be different than if you're there on a Wednesday. And then we've been using this term Civic Lab. How can we, and I've touched on this a couple times already, but how can the firehouse be a place where we start to experiment and innovate around what it means to grow as a township? And how can we all come together and shape some big impact projects for our neighborhoods? And then lastly, we always write a vision statement when we do this work before we get into design. And so we wrote this with the team. Located in the heart of Cincinnati's east side, the Madison Place Firehouse is a place to do business, enjoy a night out, host an event, or just spend time with your friends and neighbors. Whether it's live music, food, drinks, the arts, or family-friendly fun, it is here at the Madison Place Firehouse. So with that, I've kind of laid the groundwork for our thinking around the project, and that then informed the design and the program. So be thinking about that as I hand off to Joe here, and if you have questions, you can start submitting them, and we'll get to them soon. Joe, you want to take it away?
Great. So good afternoon, everybody. Great to spend a few minutes with you talking about how we translate those goals, design principles, and vision into thinking about the firehouse and how we allocate program and spaces and uses throughout a very large and flexible building. So I'm going to walk you through how we're thinking about the various spaces and opportunities that this building presents. As Mel mentioned, this building, as you can see here highlighted in the red, is much more than meets the eye when you're going down Murray Avenue and look at it. It falls down the hill and turns into a multi-story structure that, as Mel said, has about 10,000 square feet of usable space. Next slide. And it's also in a really good location. at the corner of Plainfield and Murray, just a few parcels to the northeast of that important intersection. It is not on the edge of town, but actually quite central to a lot of the growth and change and activity that is already present in the township and in the surrounding communities. What is more is it's also on a growing trail and path network. Off to the east, you have the Little Miami Scenic Trail that connects to over 5 counties on a multi-use pathway network. And then the Murray Path is coming from the west toward Plainfield and connecting at the firehouse. And with a few small incremental investments, we can actually connect those 2 path networks with the firehouse being at the middle, with the sidewalk path growing from the east, and then an extension of the trail, the Murray Path Trail, actually commencing this afternoon. At 4 p.m., there is a groundbreaking ceremony that will start that project, connecting the Murray Path Trail east to Plainfield, and then ultimately connect on to the Little Miami Scenic Trail. So how does that then inform the firehouse itself? Well, if the Murray Path is coming to Plainfield Road, there's an opportunity to think initially, even before you think about the building, to think about Murray Avenue in a new way as another place to bring the community together, to maybe incrementally or temporarily close it for special events and community activities that plug right into that path and trail network. And then building off Murray Avenue, you've got the community patio, the apron of pavement that used to serve the garage bays for the fire trucks can now be this dynamic quasi-public space that brings people together on a shared patio. And then addressing out onto that patio, the garage bays can be rolled up, and businesses and events and food and beverage can pop into that space and serve both indoors and outdoors to activate that patio space with a variety of uses and events. And then moving around the corner, as you go down the back driveway to the rear of the building, you have another event and meeting space venue that has additional roll doors that can roll up to, again, connect the indoor and outdoor space. How important is that? That we've been reminded in the pandemic year behind us. This is a flexible space that can be used for meetings, events, birthday parties, music, presentations, and the like. And that has its own space outside that can also be another venue to either grow the meeting or event capacity of those rear garage bays or have an event unto itself to the side of the building. And then upstairs, above that space, is a co-working opportunity where multiple shared and individual office spaces can be oriented around a common area and anchored by the township administration offices located in the building. And then lastly, the rooftop above the front garage bays and the patio space is an enormous opportunity to create yet another venue for events and food and beverage, and taking in views into Marymount and down Murray Avenue back towards Plainfield Road and the neighborhood as a whole. And so when you pull it all together, you see a building and a facility and an address that is flexible and can grow and change as the neighborhood needs grow and change. It can be a lot of things to a lot of community members, whether they're businesses, residents, or the social life that ties those two together.
And so with that, Mel, we're going to hand it back to you, and we can have a conversation here. I think first you wanted to talk a little bit about, in case we lose anybody, because it is Friday, first getting some information out about how to stay involved in this, and then we'll dive into conversation.
Yes, so we're going to be, we have so many ways that we want all of you to participate in this moving forward. We want to name the facility. We want to brand it. We want to learn from you what partnerships you're involved in with profits, faith-based, educational, fitness, other groups. the point of this facility is that we're providing a modern, updated space with a lot of amenities, and we're not going to run programming out of the building other than Columbia Township sponsored programming. So our township meetings, township trustee meetings, and then the very popular trustee sponsored community events that have been held in the street and at the firehouse, but now we'll have a lot of amenities in the firehouse that we'll be able to do so much more there. So what we're looking to do, what Green Street told us from their market survey, is that there's so much demand in this eastern community for the space, and others already are experts at the programming. And so we're looking to connect with them through you as well. So we'd love for you to sign up. Our website is email actually at growingtogether@columbiatwp.org on your screen. Also, we are going to begin to put regular updates on the firehouse progress in terms of the reconstruction, as well as our operational planning and our opening planning. And we're going to post those to our website and also to Facebook. And let's see, I think I just had, I'm getting a couple of questions. And then right now I'm going to answer this one question so that we'll post. Lauren is putting information for how to contact her. Lauren is on our staff, specific to the firehouse, a number of different options. And so we posted that information. And a final reminder that we did record today. Next week, look for this meeting on our website and also on our YouTube channel. Would you please take it and post it to your social media channels and share it with your neighbors and your families and ask them to get involved as well. And also a quick mention, this afternoon at 4 p.m., Marymount, in cooperation and partnership with Columbia Township, is having a groundbreaking for the Murray Path extension in the median, the grassy median between Marymount's Murray and Columbia Township's Murray at 4 p.m. There will be food and from a number of Columbia Township restaurants, as well as beverages from 50 West. So we encourage you to show up there this afternoon. So we have quite a couple of questions and quite a few comments coming in. So let's just spend a few minutes. We're doing really well on time. Let's spend a few minutes on that. I've had a couple of questions come in that I've posted answers to. I'll keep doing that. But I also have a question that came in right before the meeting. Is there any talk of converting part of the firehouse into a gym or rec center for Columbia Township residents to use? This would be a great way for Columbia Township to promote health, fitness, and community. As I mentioned earlier, that we are not immediately going to do Township's not going to run programming out of the building. We're going to open the building to agencies and individuals and entrepreneurs that already may be running their own programming. And one example of that is yoga classes, Mommy and Me fitness classes. In terms of having a full gym, we can have that conversation continuing with you, the community, for phase 2. As Kevin showed, phase 1, we're going to do the main event venue and the office facility on the main floors. And then we have the lower levels that will be phase 2. And that'll give us a chance to really continue the market research and the community conversations about what's the best fit for there as well. We have some comments, not questions. And then, as I said, I have quite a few questions coming in, but let me get through just a few comments. Peggy, it's an understatement to say I am so totally impressed and blown away by these exciting plans for the fire station. Columbia Township is so very fortunate to have such great leadership. It would be really neat to reuse the stonework on top of the station that has the Madison Place Fire Department name in it. And we do, Peggy, we do have plans to reuse that, and thank you for being a supporter of this project. Mike, who identified as a Columbia Township resident, I don't think anyone will do anything but love this. Everyone should be flabbergasted that we can pull this off. We all wanted a community place where neighbors and neighborhoods could mix. We received a comment from someone who identified as being in Madisonville. So we love that we have people on from our neighboring communities. And actually, I received a text from a Marymount council member during the meeting as well. Really excited that we're doing this today as well. So we have multi-neighborhood participation. Love it, exciting, brilliant. What a nice gift to this community to end a very difficult year. I think it's very important that Columbia Township's administration goes there. I actually have several other comments that came in that said the same thing. Really important that we put the Columbia Township administration in the township, as well as the township trustee meetings. And so this is really interesting. The community will have stronger faith because the township will make it a long-term investment. It won't be a short-term operator who might fail. Community-based uses are certain, others are unpredictable. So that's a terrific perspective. I have two others that came in. Another Michael, Columbia Township resident. Love that we're keeping it for the community. There are plenty of established programs out there. Let's just partner with them in this great space. And it's about time Columbia Township's headquarters is actually in the township. So that touches on what I mentioned earlier. And finally, I thought this was a really nice comment. It's a great playbook to ask the community what we'd like to see the firehouse become. You're doing real engagement, which is not just talking about something, but asking us to participate in its creation. So we really appreciate that. And that's something that Yard and Company really brought to the table. The trustees felt very strongly that we wanted to make sure that we talked with all of our neighbors and our neighboring communities from the very beginning. I have, let me see, just a few more. Here we go. Will you have space for solar panels? So interesting that you asked that. Tom Carroll is city manager of the Village of Silverton, which is a neighbor, and we actually have shared fire services with the city of Silverton. Tom and I talk quite a bit. Tom was one of the stakeholders that we talked to early on about this project, and he mentioned the opportunity for solar, and he is working to bring solar to the Silverton community. And so we definitely are going to look at that. We definitely have the roof space for it. So that's a great question. I have an anonymous, and that was from John. I have an anonymous person who said, it does seem like it's an ideal use to have the township administration building. And one of the things that Kevin and Joe introduced to us through Yard and Company's expertise in other communities is that we could do a co-sharing space. We just have a few administrative employees, and there'll be additional space in the office area for us to offer to entrepreneurs or an individual just getting started or nonprofits that can make use of all the facilities at a no cost or a low cost space fee. So that was an idea that we had not thought of, and that the value of having Yard and Company on as a partner and giving us best practices from all these other states that they work in and other project areas. Linnea, hi Linnea, can residents use this space rent free for neighborhood events or for other organizations that we belong to? We had another question that I answered similar to this. I typed an answer back. Part of the timeline that you saw on an earlier slide is that we're in the community conversation planning phase. We're getting ready to move into the redevelopment phase for the building reconstruction. And operationally, the trustees said from the very beginning, the most important thing is that this building will be available at no cost to residents for family events, community events, and that we would look and have conversations with residents during the operational plan development this summer about organizations that you're a part of on the board or a volunteer for or a member of that also would have no cost or low cost access to this space. So yes, that is on the planning table. David Kabicki specifically said to me, we're not looking to do a high-end event center that we make money off of. We are giving this back to the community. It is a community venue first. So thank you, Lenny, for that question. I have just a few more. Any chance of housing an all-day snack shop and restrooms for bike path users? Interestingly, Yard and Company brought both of those ideas to us as well. We were looking at perhaps like bike maintenance station We'll look at we will have restrooms. We'll have to look at the restroom piece of it. I don't know that we contemplated that, but that's something that we can definitely look at. And the snack shop idea is very interesting. Kevin and Joe talked with us about the opportunity for the lower space below the venue space that used to be the firehouse kitchen, that there could be an operator that used that to transition from a food truck or in their own kitchen and then launch out to a space somewhere else in Plainville. And also they could run some type of a pop-up shop in the upstairs or in the outdoors when we had events. And so, yes, that is on the table. So I have one person who is saying, how about turning over to the sheriff for law enforcement? The Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, which serves Columbia Township, worked with Silverton just a handful of years ago to take over Silverton's former municipal building. So they have a brand new district office there. And they have not identified that they need additional space. We're, I believe, one of their easternmost communities. So they are aware of the project and the additional space in the basement. We just actually had this conversation today. In the event that the sheriff needs, because this does happen, a command center for a particular project, that we would make that space available to them as well. So yes, that's a yes on that. I'm getting other questions, but they're similar to ones that have come in before. Parking availability. We have been working with Hamilton County zoning on the parking. The special district overlay for our downtown allows that you can redevelop properties, such as was done with Madison Place Coffee Shop, without having dedicated parking. We are looking at several different options for making public parking for this facility. We are just not far enough down the road on that. That is very much a priority, and we are working on several options, as I said, and we'll update everybody once we have that. Last question that I have that I don't think anyone else has asked: what is the timing? So we want to wrap up this conversation today and invite more feedback over the next month. And as we are doing that, we are working to bring the firehouse up to a better maintenance. It was vacant. It's been vacant, as we said, for 6 years. And so you may recently have seen we replaced all the storm sewers. And we're working now on the utility service and the systems within the building. They're all dated, not functional. And so we are working on that. And then parallel to that, we're going to start the operational planning process, where we look at questions like you've posed today, find the answers, and then have a conversation with the trustees and the community about what those priorities are. Ideally, depending on the impacts from COVID on availability of steel and lumber and appliances and the availability of contractors, the target is by the end of the summer that we would have part of the facility or all of the facility open. And then we're also, final comment from me, we're also looking at sometime this summer, early summer, before construction would start, having an open house where you would be able to walk through the firehouse, see it in its current condition, and then we will have storyboards in every room that will show you what that room will become once the firehouse is redeveloped. And it will be a party, obviously, with food and beverages and music, and the community, all the community would be invited. So that's something that we're looking at doing as well. Kevin, Joe, do you have anything else that you want to share before we close today?
No, I think all good questions. You know, I was, as you were going through them all, I think I was trying to think of a theme, and I think the theme here is operations, you know, and how this thing works, how it operates, how we structure the rents, how do we make it accessible to folks in the community. And I would venture to guess that that's one of the reasons you should stay involved, that's a lot of that's going to be getting worked through over the next several months. And I will say that Mel and your team, you've done a great job at securing a lot of grant funding for this, which allows for more flexibility around community uses and not just for-profit uses. At the end of the day, it's likely going to be a hybrid, but yeah, I mean, I think all good questions. The bike question was a good one. I think that's low-hanging fruit, really, in a good way that if you stand outside the firehouse for about 5 minutes today, you'll probably see about 20 people bike by and going from the path that Joe mentioned to the other path. And anything we can do to get them to stop, whether that's a bathroom, a refrigerator, a bike maintenance shop. We've even seen in some places cyclist social clubs where people can be members and they get a key to a certain space to use the restroom, to use the fridge, to make some coffee, whatever they might want to do. So I thought that was a great question. I think that's not, there are a lot of things within this that can start happening sooner rather than later, which is really exciting.
So a couple of people, two people just very quickly at the end have made comments about the cost at the source of the grants. And I know that we had that on the slide earlier. I wanted to share. We have secured more than $500,000 worth of grants from the state of Ohio capital project process, as well as through HUD, which is a federal program in Hamilton County. And we also put into place what's called a tax increment financing district. With the Porsche expansion, there's an opportunity after the schools are paid for their share of the new revenue that expansion will generate. The balance of it, per Ohio law, will go into an account that can be used for public purposes only in the vicinity of that project, which puts the firehouse in that district. And so the cost of the project that we just completed, the storm sewer replacement, all comes out of that fund, and utilities and parking and all of those costs will actually be covered by both of those sources. And so it's been a great start to this project to be able to bring in what we call other people's money. All right, let's wrap up today. Thank you for everyone. I had two offers come in just as we're closing today for people who, one, Bruce, I know him, he's a Madison Place resident who is in the hospitality industry and is offering to assist us with the development on that side of it. And then someone else offered for a similar thing. So we already have your engagement coming in. We encourage more of you to step up and step forward. We've really enjoyed talking to you today. We hope we see you at 4 o'clock in the Murray median for the groundbreaking for the path. Thank you, Yard & Company. You've been a game changer on this project. Thank you to the trustees for your leadership on this project. And everybody have a great weekend.
Thank you. See you guys. Take care.